Hey, welcome back, Truth Seekers. 118th episode here. I could have dedicated it to James Madison, who was fascinated with the number 39 and released his most famous published essay, Federalist Paper number 39, on January 18th, 118. Instead, I chose to talk about Robin Williams, who was said to have committed suicide this past August 11th, 811. What I say to you and what I wrote on my written blog that day is that he was murdered following a pattern of murders that extends well beyond him, including people such as Phillip Seymour Hoffman, who died on the 33rd day of the year on the fourth floor with 44 bags of heroin, as reported. Very curious number there, 44, because the word kill in Gematria sums to 44. Also, it would make you wonder who would wander New York with 44 bags of heroin on them. I don't think Philip Seymour Hoffman would. And the sad thing about that is if I'm correct about this and these people are murdered, think about what's done to them in the media, how they're demonized. Philip Seymour Hoffman was said to have an addiction problem, suffering from depression, having problems with his family. All these details were coming out about how his life was unraveling. And with Robin Williams, after he was murdered, at least I say he was murdered, I think I'm right. After he was murdered, they said he committed suicide. If you guys watch Robin Williams films, I don't watch a lot of his films, but I know he did a film recently where he has a son who accidentally kills himself while masturbating, doing that thing where people mess with their breathing. I don't exactly know what that's all about, but I've heard people do it, at least in the movies. Anyway, his son, in that movie, his son dies doing this thing, and as his father, he feels embarrassed, so he changes the scene, manipulates the story, and attracts all this sympathy in the process. It's an interesting movie if you haven't seen it. It's one of the last films he did. And then lo and behold, he dies from what? Suffocating. The word gematria, or the word suffocate in gematria sums to 33. The numerology of the date he died also sums to 33. He died August 11th, 2014. 8 plus 11 plus 14, a standard way of extracting the numerology of that date is 33, just like how Philip Seymour Hoffman died earlier in the year, on the 33rd day of the year, February 2nd. Since his death, there's been several other celebrity deaths I've written about. It's ongoing. I believe these people are being sacrificed. If it's not that, they're faking their deaths for whatever reason. Joan Rivers, the day before dying from throat surgery, performed at a comedy club with a 33 name and made a joke about how she could die any day. I suspect Joan Rivers is alive. I really think she's alive. I think she faked her death. And it's just a way for her to get out of the media. I mean, think about how many years she's been in the media. What better way to go out than with a fake death? Now she can just go sit on an island and drink martinis or do whatever she wants to do. Critique people's bikinis. Okay, so anyway, let's go back before we get to that. He died 8/11/14, a date with numerology of 33. The name Robin Williams itself is also interesting. First name 31, Williams sums to 35, put it together 66. He was born 7/21/1951, giving him a life number of 26. That's the God number in Gematria. If you're going, who's Zachary Hubbard? Well, that's me. By coincidence, him and I, we have some similar things. We have the same birthday. Well, I'm born 32 years after him. And our names both sum to 66. I think I got the better July 21st birthday because mine happens to be the coldest day ever recorded. Not everyone can say that, can they? Yeah, look it up if you don't believe me. I learned that doing, you know what's funny? I didn't know that about myself until I started this research. I've learned so much about myself, my connections to my parents. It's just fascinating. The person who made the English language famous was assassinated July 21st, 1796. The numerology of that date is 33. His name was Robert Burns, the man credited with making English famous. Robert's a 33 name, Burns is a 74 name. He is now buried under the 333-foot tall Masonic temple in the United States on the eastern seaboard in Virginia. So anyway, I just wanted to share those little connections I have with Robin Williams. When I was a kid, my parents would take me to see the movies they saw. My parents didn't have a lot of money, so they couldn't afford daycare, and I don't think they had money to take me to movies to see for myself, so they just kind of, their babysitting was they would have me fall asleep in the theater. But I honestly remember seeing Goodbye, or what is it, Good Morning Vietnam with Robin Williams. And if you go back and look up the release date, the numerology of that movie, like they do so often, the release date of that movie has a 33 numerology, little tribute. But I remember as a kid watching that movie, and I just remember liking that person, Robin Williams. And I was only 4 years old, and I don't remember a lot from back then, but I know I've always felt this fondness for Robin Williams, and it seems that that's quite true in our society too, because out of all the sad news stories we've heard in the past year, honestly, out of all of them, the most sadness I've heard from just the people I'm around, just in community, hearing people talk, was about Robin Williams. I noticed a lot of people were really sad about the death of Robin Williams, and I think that's because he's always just been such a likable person through the movies. So just a second ago, I showed you how his name sums to 66. Maybe some of you already thought about this. This year at the 66th Emmy Awards, Billy Crystal did the tribute. It was the 66th. They did a big thing because of his death. Did they ever say his name added up to 66? Of course not. And if you guys have never seen one of my posts before, this 66 number is super important. If you take the first 13 colonies, the numerology of them, it sums to 66. The first highway built across the country is Route 66. In Gematria, the name Route 66 sums to 66. The Bible is of 66 books, 39 Old Testament, 27 New Testament. So these numbers aren't just arbitrary. They're very important. And just a second ago, what was up on the screen was Robin Williams doing his Big Bang Genesis skit. Here's a little side fact. Big Bang and Genesis both sum to 33, as do most things in science. And yeah, that's pretty much the extent of it, you guys. There is just an ongoing conspiracy of numbers, murders, assassinations, suicide, fake deaths, whatever it is. And it extends beyond just Hollywood celebrities. It goes through to presidents, world leaders, the Vatican, and so much more. So, hope you learned something new.